Hello my friends, welcome back to Meerkat Musings. I'm your host Ben, aka Daft Moan, and in today's video we're going to be touching upon something which is quite serious, and in some respects you could argue that it's tragic in more ways than one. And basically what we're going to be looking at in this video is the recent case of the murder of Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson was a CEO of a major healthcare company in the United States, and it appears that he was targeted on the street of New York City only a few days ago, as we know, and he was killed. He was shot and killed on the streets of New York City, which has triggered, of course, a pretty serious manhunt for the suspect. And as of the making of this video, the suspect had not yet been caught, and the search actually now spans across multiple states. So it's becoming quite a big thing now, to put it mildly. Now, there are a number of reactions to this. I mean, first of all, I have to say, I will never, I think, be able to find it in myself to rejoice at someone's death, especially someone's murder. But one of the things that you almost kind of feel that we're expected to do is to have, this enormous kind of swell of sympathy for the victim here, for Mr. Thompson. Don't get me wrong, I don't, as I say, celebrate someone's death in these circumstances. But Brian Thompson was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar, very profitable business that was profiting, I might add, off the back of denying people vital and important and life-changing medical care. And so, some of the decisions as to company policy and direction would have rested on his shoulders, and ordinary people who are just trying to survive would have suffered as a result of the decisions of him and his company. So my sympathy is muted by that, because, as I say, his choices would have made a huge impact, and a huge negative impact, on the lives of many, many other Americans. And it's kind of brought to the fore this whole notion of greed, and particularly the greed in the US medical system, which is horrific, and it's not surprising that there are quite a few people out there who are finding it very hard to feel any sympathy for the victim whatsoever in this instance. You could argue that he himself had a great many victims through the result of company policy. To give you an idea as to this company, United Healthcare, they're actually the largest private insurer in the US, and and Brian Thompson, he, as of last year, he earned just over $10 million. Whereas, of course, whereas he's a multi-millionaire, or was a multi-millionaire, a great many people that his company was effectively making money out of, as I say, they would have struggled to get by day to day. They would have faced ridiculous medical bills, which are just unimaginable across most of the world, to be honest. And it's therefore, it's a challenge and a chore to feel that much in the way of sympathy in that respect. Don't get me wrong, he leaves behind a wife and children, and they'll be hurting right now, and I imagine that they'll be hurting even more in light of some of the reactions. But then again, decisions, as I say, made by Mr. Thompson would have impacted countless other families. So there's a lot to kind of digest, shall we say, from all of this. And of course, some other people in positions of power within businesses have been reacting in a somewhat appalled manner at the lack of sympathy and concern. But how far can you be? I mean, I'm using this word over and over again here, but how far can you be sympathetic in these circumstances? It goes to show the fundamental flaws with the US healthcare system. I'm lucky. I mean, I live in a country where we have a national health service. So when I go to the doctors, I'm not left facing a bill of hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. I don't know if I have to, God forbid, go in an ambulance somewhere. I'm not staring at a bill thousands of pounds for that journey. I'm not facing, being basically sort of plunged into debt because of medical matters. I can choose to go private if I so wish. That option is available to me, and therefore I foot the bill, which is absolutely right and fair. But equally, when my wife was pregnant with my daughter, when she went to hospital to give birth, in America, families can face bills of tens of thousands of dollars for that. So starting a family has to be very, very carefully weighed up against the obscene cost of a hospital stay to have a baby. Whereas, me, that was never an issue. It wasn't a factor in my thinking. It just isn't in most parts of the world. And then you've got, insurance companies who are basically kind of making huge, eye-watering profits off the backs of people in these situations. And therefore, as I have already said, it's very, very hard to feel sympathetic in those circumstances. I don't understand the mindset here of defending so vigorously a system that rips people off. People who are basically caught in this system and struggling in this system are among the people fighting hardest to defend it, which I do not understand. We hear so much talk about the American dream and the land of opportunity and things like that. But I think, along with a few other things, like, for example, the idea of trickle-down economics, we have to accept that these ideas are myths at this point. You can't look to the 1 in a million rag to riches story and suggest that the opportunity is equal for everyone when they go to America, because it's not. You have to have, or inherit, as the case may be, a reasonable fortune to kind of get ahead in the first place. You've got to have people who are backing you in order to make your way forward. If you don't have that, then the odds are stacked against you. There isn't equal opportunity in the United States. To be fair, there isn't equal opportunity here in the UK either, for that matter. The system is weighted in favour of those who are already wealthy, for those who already hold positions of power and influence. And they are making sure it's weighted in their favour. They're doing everything that they can to stack the deck. They do not want a situation or a scenario to unfold where they have to yield power and influence, and especially money, in any way, shape or form. It doesn't matter that there is more than enough to go around. They will throw out words like, inflation and that kind of thing, but that's just a set of excuses, which unfortunately some people gobble up hook, line and sinker because they are so desperately married to this system that exploits them, which I can't understand. I really can't. People might turn around and say, "Oh, you're arguing for the forced redistribution of wealth. You're arguing in favour of socialism, communism, etc., etc." I firmly believe that people should be allowed the opportunity to earn wealth. I don't object to that, but when you have multi-billionaires who are spaffing away money on vanity projects to go to space and all that kind of thing, whilst their workers are struggling to get by month to month, living paycheck to paycheck. When you've got people who are being crippled by medical bills while the bosses of these companies are multi-millionaires, surely you have to stop and think for a second about whether that system is even remotely close to being fair. We have a situation where we've got basically capitalism run amok. Capitalism is out of control, without a doubt. By all means, people should have the opportunity to, as I say, earn money, and I think hard work should be rewarded. But hard work actually isn't being rewarded, because a lot of these people that get into these powerful positions, they're not actually really doing anything. They haven't actually necessarily done much to get there in the first place, and they're not doing much to stay there now. I mean, look at Elon Musk. People talk about how he invented this, invented that. In a lot of cases, he didn't. He just so happened to have some money that he used to buy other companies and associate his name with those companies. And in a lot of cases, he's actually ran those companies really, really poorly. I mean, you don't need to look at Twitter for an example of that. And yet, he is kind of almost worshipped in some quarters for being a brilliant businessman. He's not. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and he's done very little to actually earn that. And meanwhile, a lot of people who work for him will again be struggling day to day. And they're the ones who are actually making Musk his money. And this is true for a lot of companies, a lot of CEOs, and I'm sure some do work hard, but a lot of them are basically getting rich off the back of other people's hard work. And those people are not getting their due rewards. They're not getting the wages that they should get, that that these companies can afford to pay. They just don't want to. And these companies coming up with excuses and blocking efforts to try and bring about a bit more equity into our society. It's a thoroughly unbalanced world, to put it mildly, in that respect. And it does make me feel quite sad when you pause to think about the various problems and issues faced by any given nation, even any given developed nation. So much of it boils down to greed. It doesn't come down to all the usual scare words like immigration and that kind of thing. It's greed. It's a love of wealth, a love of money that is causing so much heartache and pain in this world. It's not the only thing, of course, far from it. But I think it's certainly one of the biggest problems that we face in modern day society. And it's also the problem that so many elements of society are doing their absolute level best to try and cling to, which I cannot understand. I don't think for a second that you should be going around, shooting people and murdering people in the street. Of course I don't. But in this particular instance, someone somewhere has, we don't know the details, but someone somewhere somehow has been rendered so angry, so absolutely disenchanted and ruined by the system that they have lashed out, and they've been angry to the point where they've been able to hold on to it and harness it and plan something. They've reached a breaking point beyond a breaking point, So it's and that's a symptom of a society where money is valued more than life, which is basically the US healthcare system, as well as arguably global society at large. And these problems won't go away unless there is a very serious rethink about changing these systems, which unfortunately isn't going to happen while the people who control the system are doing everything they can to keep it. So all that we can do, or in my case I can do, is do a video like this, share it, publish it, and hope that maybe somehow it makes someone think about doing things differently. And of course, if enough people lend their voices to that idea, maybe, I mean, maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe we can start to kind of grind away this system that causes us so much pain. That is my hope. As a parent, I want to see this world be a better place for my daughter, and I don't know how to do that other than using my voice to try and get people to think a little bit about the system we're in and the system that we could have if we weren't so led by money. So that's my thoughts on this subject, and yeah, I hope it does maybe make you stop and think a little bit, and perhaps it might even change your thinking. I don't know. We'll go from there. Take care, everyone.